Now last year I did a video on finding fly tying materials from craft stores, and I got a lot of recommendations from you folks out there who left a comment or sent me an email on some of the other materials that we can find at craft stores or dollar stores. So I thought it would be a good time to do a part 2 of fly tying materials from craft stores, and then maybe show some of the flies that we can tie with some of these materials. Stick around. Hello everybody, welcome to Savage Flies. I'm Matt, thanks for stopping by. So the video I made last year, I talked a lot about yarns and some of the yarns that you can get from stores like Michael's or Hobby Lobby or Joann's, and also talked about wools and then some of the craft furs, and I went into a lot of the feathers you can get, and then we went into some foams and glass beads. So if you haven't seen that video, stick around to the end of this one, I'll link to it. It's a pretty good one to watch. But since doing that video, I've visited lots of craft stores this year, and I found, quite a few more ideas that might help fly tyers out. So first, let's talk more about yarns. Just recently, I went into a Joann's Fabric, and I found a couple of yarns, actually more than a couple, that I think can really help us. This brand, Yarn Bee, they make some really cool looking fuzzy yarns. It's a cotton, but also some synthetics in it. Comes in all kinds of different colors. This one right here, so basically what this one is called a gilt eyelash. And these aren't much more expensive than a regular skein of yarn. Maybe they're $5 or $6 each, but this one's 111 yards. This one looks pretty much like a dubbing brush. So what kind of flies can we make with this one? Well, you can make all kinds of crazy looking streamers like this guy right here, which I know it's a pretty buggy looking mess, but you know what? A lot of saltwater flies and big bass bugs are kind of buggy looking messes too. Now this one is a little bit smaller, so you could make some smaller flies with this, maybe some smaller streamers, even some fuzzy nymphs with a yarn like this. Now another yarn I found at the Joann's, also by Yarn Bee, this one is called Fur the Moment, F-U-R the Moment. And what this one is, this basically is a synthetic zonker strip. This was really cool looking material. And I just sat down a couple weeks ago and tied this fly out of this. And I haven't fished it yet, but I think this is gonna look pretty good in the water. Now, one more yarn I did find, it's this one, also by Baby Bee, and I think this one is kind of for making a baby blanket. It's a pretty soft, pliable material. I'm sure it's cotton. It's a pretty thick noodle, I guess, and you could make some, some of the bass bugs that look like long worms or eels or snakes with this guy. Now, one more thing I found recently at a Hobby Lobby, just more feathers. The kinds of feathers they have, it's going to be different, really based on the store you go to, or maybe even the season. This one, black goose biots, and there are probably more goose biots in here than I could use in a year. Now, one note to keep in mind, a lot of these dyed feathers that you're going to find, they're not color fast, and a couple of people mentioned that in the last video, and yes, that is 100% true. But what I will do with these, say I had a red duck feather that I was going to tie with, I might just take a handful of them and soak them in water overnight. And then in the morning, the water is going to turn, maybe a little bit pink. But for the most part, any of that dye that is going to have leached out will have leached out. And, the feather is going to be usable, and it's not really going to have had any impact on the color of it. Now, I suppose if they were dyed with some type of acid dye, you could soak them in some water with a little bit of vinegar to set the color, but I'm not sure what kind of dye they use for these feathers, so I just soak them in water overnight, and that's always worked for me. Now, the Hobby Lobby I went into had some crazy guinea feathers, blue and green right here. They had some peacock eyes. This is pretty cool. So for about $3.49, this one was, got a couple of peacock eyes. Now, last time we also talked about craft furs and some of the flies you can make with craft furs, like this guy right here. This was a pretty fun tie. I think we were calling this one the Whippet. It wasn't that hard to do, but also at Joann's Fabrics, I found that you can buy craft fur by the foot. So this is a 3-foot piece right here, and it was just a couple of dollars a foot. So for really not much money, you can get several colors of craft fur. And this 3-foot piece right here, this is going to last me, probably the rest of my life for this color of craft fur. Now, one other thing I found in the sewing section at the last time I was out is embroidery thread. This stuff right here. Now these things are about $1. What do you call this? Just a little package, I guess. I'm not sure how much is in here, but they come in a million different colors, and there's different, vendors that make them. Some of them, I think DMC was a popular one. So take a look at it. You might be able to unwind these like you would a yarn and then just use one or two of the strands of it. Or, you can use it, the full thickness of it, and make some pretty good bodies. You can make ribbing material out of it. Just all kinds of good stuff you can do with embroidery thread. Now, one other thing I found somebody recommended were these pom-poms. This is I'm not sure how much this bag costs, but it's probably just a couple of dollars. Got all kinds of crazy colors right here. Found a little pack right here in Christmas colors. It has a little sparkle in it. And what you can do with these, just, snip off some of the material, and you've got a ready-made dubbing blend. You could put it in your coffee grinder if you wanted to mix some colors and fluff it up a little bit, but this is a pretty easy way to make some dubbing. Another thing I found, pipe cleaners. Now, keep in mind, pipe cleaners are generally kind of thick, and the wire in them is pretty, stiff. So it's not real easy to make a fly with pipe cleaners for a material. I came up with this crazy looking concoction right here, and maybe somebody more creative than me can come up with a better fly using pipe cleaners. So I mention that because it is a potential material that we could use, although I haven't come up with a great looking fly out of pipe cleaners yet. Now, one more thing I found at the Hobby Lobby recently is an actual rabbit pelt. This thing right here, $12. It's a full-size rabbit pelt. So what can we do with these things? Really anything. You could cut it into, say, 4x4 inch squares and then dye each of those patches whatever color you want, however you dye your materials. You could cut it into zonker strips, or you can just, shave part of it, put it in your coffee grinder, mix some synthetics with it, and make your dubbing that way. So most fly tyers out there know how versatile rabbit is, and for $12, you can make a lot of dubbing or zonker strips out of something like this. Now, one other thing I found that I didn't talk about last time is just wire. Wire right here, this is a copper and this is a gold. This is pretty cheap. It's 32 gauge, so it's about the same diameter as a brassy, but do keep in mind it's a little bit stiffer. It's a little bit, not as pliable as a UTC ultra wire, but you can use it to wrap a rib. You can also use it as, maybe the connector in an articulated fly. Another thing that I commonly get at, a Walmart or a craft store is Testors model paint. This is pretty cheap right here. I'd get a white, a yellow, and a red for making your streamer eyes. You could also get magic markers. If you color any of your flies with permanent markers, you can get those there. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is pretty cool, and you can find great bargains with this. It's tinsels. Tinsels like these guys right here, or ribbon. So certainly after the holiday season, after Christmas, you can find these really cheap. And what I've done with this one right here, I make streamer bodies with this. This one is kind of thick, so I'll cut it long ways, just cut a little nick in the end and then pull it apart. And it makes a perfect, substitute for a silver mylar tinsel. This one's actually holographic, so this one has made me some really cool looking streamer bodies. And this one is a little bit of a pearlescent type ribbon material. So again, really cheap stuff. And if you go shopping right after Christmas, you can get them super cheap. And one other thing I found, keep in mind that you don't just have to go to craft stores. Check out your dollar stores as well. I found this guy right here, Foam Ornament Activity Kit, $1. And not only is this fun for the entire family, you can make, 5 snowman Christmas ornaments. You've got lots of white 2mm foam. You've got some black foam in this guy's hat. You've got some glitter foam right there. I'm not sure how we could use that if you would want a red or green glittery hopper. But one of the coolest things in this pack right here is the string that you hang the ornaments with. It's basically a gold oval tinsel, and you've probably got about 4 feet of it in here. So for $1 right here, you can either make 5 snowman Christmas ornaments, or you can tie a lot of, foam flies or streamer bodies with this oval gold tinsel. So there you go. I hope this was helpful for some new tyers out there who are looking to be creative and where they can get fly tying materials. But I do want to caveat and say that I 100% support us shopping at our local fly shops. Anything we can do to support them is a good thing. But I also realize that fly tie materials can get expensive, and it can be a barrier to entry for someone just wanting to get into the sports. So there's nothing wrong with saving a little bit of money when you can. So that's it, everybody. I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care. We'll see you next time.